Joining me now in the studio to discuss this latest mass shooting is Hilary Shelton, director of the NAACP Washington Bureau and senior vice president for Advocacy and Policy. One of his big issues is ending gun violence. So, Hilary, here we are again. We heard Henry say that, this suspect bought the gun legally, had a background check, but something didn't come up because he wasn't supposed to be allowed to buy a gun. So there's a lapse here. What's going on?
No, absolutely. We have major problems with our gun control laws in the United States of America. Quite frankly, we have inadequate gun control laws as well. Whenever someone that has a history, as this young man did, a history of violence, domestic abuse, of course, with his wife, and even domestic abuse against a baby, one of his own children, as a matter of fact, it raises major concerns that these people are able to buy guns, particularly military-style assault weapons, which is what he utilized. As you know, in this particular case, very similar to Las Vegas, you had someone that was well-armed, had many bullet clips. Each of those clips hold about 70 bullets, as a matter of fact. He was able to continue shooting until he ran out of bullets, pop out the clip, pop another one in, and continue shooting. As a matter of fact, it's outrageous that we're at a point now that the leadership in the United States is not willing to finally talk about guns. As a matter of fact, what was outrageous when the Las Vegas shooting occurred, the president was asked, are we going to address the issue of gun violence in the country? He said it's not time to talk about gun violence. This just happened, and he says the same thing. We shouldn't be talking about solutions to gun violence at this point. At what point will we talk about it? It seems to be happening over and over again, and we're getting exactly the same result, which is, quite frankly, the clinical definition of insanity.
What do you make of how this case is being discussed in the country versus what happened in New York with the terror suspect running down people versus what happened in Las Vegas? Compared to everything else that has happened, most of these guns were bought legally.
Absolutely, which means we have a problem. How should anyone be able to legally purchase guns that can cause this much carnage? In essence, again, what we have is military-style assault weapons that were actually intended for battlefields, but they're able to be bought so freely here in the United States at many department stores, as a matter of fact, big box stores, as you call them, in places all over the country, and certainly throughout the state of Texas.
Churches, schools, nightclubs, concerts. Would you say the United States is better or worse when it comes to learning from each of these incidents where people are gathering, expecting to have peace or a good time or an element of safety?
I'd have to argue we're worse because we're not doing anything about it. It happens, we talk about it for a minute, but no new policy solutions are brought forward. Bills are pending on Capitol Hill that will address these problems and so many others, but we're not addressing it at all. Even the leader of the free world, as we'd like to call him, the president of the United States, says now is not the time to have this conversation. But Americans are dying at very, very high numbers. Now, we're talking about the very high-profile cases, but in communities throughout the United States, whether they're talking about communities in Chicago or New York or other places in our country as well, we have a major problem with gun violence that happens every single day, but no new solution. Again, that is the clinical definition of insanity.
Hilary Shelton, we appreciate your insight. Thank you for joining us.